Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Justine Leconte. This talk is named How to Build a Fashion Brand Without Playing the Fashion Game, just because I couldn't. You'll see why in a minute. I'm assuming that most of you don't know me yet, so I'm going to quickly introduce myself. I'm a fashion designer and a so-called influencer, which is a fancy thing to say. Every time I have to cringe. But I created my own label. I currently have customers in 56 markets, all continents. I have recently crossed, together with my viewers, the 500,000 milestone on YouTube, 43,000 on Instagram and counting. I've done this in 3 years, completely organically. I didn't have budget. I never paid for a view on YouTube. I haven't done AdWords campaigns yet. So the question is, for this talk today, how, why, and can you achieve the same results? After that, we'll have a bit of time for questions. A bit of background. I'm French, born and raised. I initially studied business, so marketing and strategy majors. I worked in cosmetics and in tech, two very different industries, for several years. But I always had fashion in the back of my mind, because it's a very powerful industry, a very powerful product to help you feel good in your body, in what you're wearing, be self-confident, and also to influence people. So as a marketeer, it was very attractive to me. And eventually, I left my business job. And I went back to school. I moved to New York. I graduated in fashion design, came back to Europe, moved to Berlin. That was a new city for me. I think it's a great place to start a fashion business today. And I created my label. That was the spring of 2015. I positioned my label as follows. I'm post-Rana Plaza generation. So for me, ethics and human rights are not something we can compromise on anymore. Latest at that point, done. So I source and I produce completely in Europe, ethically. There I'm sure that the people are paid properly, that the working conditions are right. So all made in Europe, entirely, the entire supply chain. Then I enjoy working with knitted fabrics a lot. May it be super chunky knits or super fine knits, innovating with fiber mixes and innovative materials. I love that. So I specialize my label on it. And last but not least, I try to not design on trends, which for seasonal businesses is like, what? I try to design things that you'll still want to wear in 5, 10, 15 years, because it's out of time. Timeless is a difficult word, but I try to do that. And so that was my label. So I took my collection, my business plan. I went to ring the bells, the way you do it in fashion, right? And I learned a lot in the first month. I heard things like, we're going to observe what you're doing. We're not going to invest yet. But if you still exist in 5 years, come again. Like, wow, that's a long time for an entrepreneur. Either I'm a millionaire by then or I'm bankrupt. But 5 years is way too long. I'll be dead by then. Or I heard, are you showing at Fashion Week? No, because they already stopped listening. Next. So to sum it up, what I learned in the first few months of trying to get my business up and running was that you need at least one of these 3 things to get a business started in this industry: fame, money, and connections. At least one of the 3. 3 is even better. I had none of these because nobody knew me. I paid for my degree in the US, so I was broke as hell. And I had no connections, especially being French in this new city and in this new market. I learned that the barrier of entry that they were talking about in my strategy classes in business school is not a barrier, it's a wall, a huge wall. I couldn't get over it. I couldn't get through it, clearly. Like, I mean, I'm not suicidal. But I thought I might be able to get around it. So I sat down and wrote a plan that was anything but the traditional process. And my plan looked this way. I said, I'm going to sell only online. This way, I don't depend on the retailers. I'm also not going to start with one market and then move on to further markets. I'm directly going to open to everyone who's interested and who speaks English. anyone in the world can order from my website. Second point, I saw this hugely crowded mass market, this dramatically high-priced designer market, and I think there are less people in between, though the demand really is there. So I thought I'm going to get into that slot, so to speak. I keep production in Europe, no compromise on that. The quality is extremely high. Yeah, make screenshots. But the retail price is still OK, because I'm selling directly. So far, so good, makes sense. I also don't start taking the cost and calculating a markup, like you learn in fashion school. I started from the retail price, calculating backwards, because that's what you learn in the cosmetics industry. A much price-sensitive market, much more price-sensitive. Third point, I said I'm going to talk directly to my customers, because I can't get through with the press and the PR and everything. I don't have the right keys. So I decided to broadcast myself without the filters from people who are already in that industry. Broadcasting yourself, that was the first slogan of YouTube when they started out, and that's exactly what I did. I had 3 goals with this channel. The first one was to make fashion inclusive, because there is this myth that the industry is super elitist, super close, that fashion is not for everyone, but everyone needs clothes. So everyone should be able to have fun getting dressed. So let's talk about this as an open group on YouTube. Then I wanted to share my creative process, because making a collection with a team of 1.5 is not the same as what you see in the movies about Dior and McQueen and everything. And nobody was documenting that for people who start, so I thought I'd do that. And also, I wanted to genuinely share tips, how to find your colors, how to work with proportions, things that I know because I'm from the designer perspective rather than the consumer perspective. So those are the results I got in the first 3 years. 2016, I reached 13,000 subscribers. It's on average for a first year. And 65% of the traffic on my web shop was coming from YouTube at that time. So YouTube really gave me the initial boost, the traffic that I needed to get my website up and running, to make it visible on Google and everything. Yeah. Then in the second year, I reached 282,000 subscribers. So that was a big growth, still organically. At that point, 41% of my traffic was coming from YouTube. It doesn't mean that YouTube converted less, it was constant. It means that the other sources of traffic grew a lot faster. And that's a great trend. So I kept going in that way, in that direction. Today, I'm slightly past the third year. I'm at 510,000 subscribers. And only 16% of my traffic comes from YouTube. This is great. This is a great situation, because I have 2 pillars growing in parallel. There is a bit of overlap, but not that much. So it's stable financially. It smoothes out all the seasons that I would have with a fashion business. It's great for cash flow purposes. I'm on the radar of the press and the buyers now. So I'm getting back into the traditional way through another door, kind of. I'm exploring further social media. And there are brands from inside and outside the industry that now want to work with me as a designer and/or an influencer. So this is really a situation, a solid, sound basis I can build on. Can it work for you too? I think definitely yes. And those are the 5 key learnings that I had in my first 3 years of business. The first point is, talk to your customers. They are the people you need to convince. I should add, they are the only people you need to convince. Don't spend time trying to convince people from your own industry that they should take you seriously. Because in the end, the people who matter are your customers. Then it's not, this is the budget that I have, how much can it buy me? It's what can you contribute as a brand? Is it entertainment, beautiful content or pictures? Something that you teach people that they're interested in? What makes you relevant? And this is a question to answer regardless of how much budget you have, because it also works completely without budget. Point 3, look for shortcuts. For me, it was social media, because I came from tech, and I knew I can make this algorithm thing work for me and use that snowball effect they're talking about, and it worked. Maybe in your case, it's a different skill set. what are you good at that also fits your brands and that results in a business model that is not the traditional one. Number 4, if you're not comfortable working online, find people who do. Influencers are super fast, extremely reactive, flexible. They can work short time. And if you work with them, you learn a lot on the way until you're able to do it by yourself. Last point. It sounds so obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. Don't wait. I still have discussions with big brands that say, we haven't figured out yet if YouTube/Instagram is the right channel for us. And I go like, what do you mean? All your customers and all your potential customers and everyone is on there. What proof are you still looking for? Because it's much easier to keep up than to catch up with your customers. Just take an angle of the whole thing and start there, but start. That's all from me. I hope you found that inspiring. I'm happy to take any questions from the room. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justine. That was really inspiring. You spoke a lot about the start and how you strategically have to set yourself up in order to become successful. What are the things that you're working on currently, and how would you describe the maturity of your brand today?
OK, 2 questions. The maturity of my brand, I'd say it's still at the very beginning. Everyone speaks German here. It's in den Kinderschuhen. Important word. I learned that recently. I'm working on building a brand that's not linked to my face, because I started very personally. So I'm not there yet on that matter, but it's something I'm working on, and it's moving forward, I would say, to keep it brief. What I'm working on right now is to expand the traffic sources and the scope that I have and that I can activate beyond YouTube and my website. I mentioned very quickly Instagram and Pinterest. These are great sources of traffic, especially Pinterest. It's totally underrated, underestimated. So I'm working on that and building up the cash flow that I need to make each collection bigger than the previous one. So I'm kind of having this snowballing effect now.
And if you look at all the viewers on YouTube, can you tell us a bit from which countries they come?
Over 200 countries.
From all over the world. And
anyone who speaks English. So you would assume that the English-speaking countries would come first, right? US, UK, Canada, India, Australia. Then the countries that speak English well, so Western Europe, South America, etc., in the order that you would guess.
And you said it's all about getting the traffic from those platforms. And can you tell us a bit, without going into exact numbers, but how do those platforms help you also to convert?
They don't all convert with the same efficiency, I would say. But mostly what I'm learning this year is that my website is not totally independent from YouTube. And so traditional PR work, getting featured in blogs and things like this really, really helps. And those people also visitors that come back. So those are the ones I'm looking for. People who really take the time and understand the work instead of saying, this is too expensive, I can get the same for €5. What should I bother? You know?
So you would say that YouTube is more for brand building then for you, or?
No, it's definitely both. It's definitely both. In the first year, YouTube was my main source of traffic and thus of conversions as well.
Great. OK, thank you very much.
Thank
Justine
you.
Leconte. Thank you.
You want this?